So, which brings us to reason number 4, that people might be depressed. And how about this one? The shifting of the tax burden, right, from corporate business to individual wage and salary earners. That means if you were to look at the amount of federal taxes collected from average working people, common people, in the society in, let's say, the 1950s, let's say the late 1950s, early 60s, you would see that the amount collected from corporate business would, if you looked at a chart, would be up here. And the amount collected from individual wage earners, salary earners, would be down here. Now we've seen the reversal of that. We see that a family of 4 earning $40,000 in this country is paying double the average corporate tax rate. So we've seen the shifting of the tax burden from corporate business to common people. The average American family is working approximately half the year to pay all of their alleged tax obligations, right?
Well, that's how they've turned us into slaves. We are slaves for the few rich.
Right.
Controlling this country.
Right. Which brings us to reason number 5 that people might be depressed. The expanding disparity of income in this country. I describe this country as a dictatorship of the wealthiest few. A handful of individuals, wealthy and powerful individuals and organizations, own and control just about everything. They own and control the entire political system. They own and control and manipulate the courts. We see that the Manhattan County, and it's interesting that we are in the county in the United States with the most drastic and most pronounced disparity of income, which means that if you were to divide the people of this county into 5 income groups, the top income group would be earning $364,000, and the bottom income group would be earning about $10,000 a year. So Manhattan County is the county in the United States with the largest disparity of income, the biggest gap between the haves and the have-nots.
Right. For the average person that doesn't know, because this program is also on the internet, the average apartment, 1-bedroom apartment in Manhattan, sells for $1.5 million. Now that's in 2007. It's going to be more next year and the year thereafter. But that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
These are the same apartments that were only selling for like a couple of $100,000 just a decade ago.
Right.
And now, and we're not talking about spectacular apartments. We're talking about small apartments.
Right. There is not one major city in this country, it's not just New York, there's not one major city in this country that a person working a minimum wage job can afford to rent a 1-bedroom apartment at regular market value. And in the last 30 years, from 1970 to the year 2000, 90% of America's taxpayers have experienced a 7% decrease in their real income. Real income is the income that you have after you consider the effect of inflation on the money that you have, right? Basically, so we've seen a 7%. 90% of America's taxpayers have seen a 7% decrease in their real income over the last 30 years, approximately. In that same period of time, the wealthiest 1% in this country have seen a 150% increase in their real income. The top 1/10 of that 1% have seen a 340% increase in their real income. And the top 100th of that 1% have experienced a 599% increase in their real income, almost 600%. Right? And these statistics are not just off the top of my head.
No, of course they're not.
This is from the Congressional Budget Office.
Yeah, well...
And these are documented in an article by Paul Krugman, voted the best economist in America under 40 years old. I don't know who does these ratings, but Paul Krugman, and the name of the article is The Upward Mobility Myth.
Well, listen, when I was in my youth, it was a rarity for somebody to be a billionaire. They were multi-millionaires, but rarity to be billionaires. Now it's commonplace in Manhattan.
Right. So you think
every block has a billionaire on it.
Right. So you think the housing crunch has something to do with the fact that people are depressed in the society, which brings us to reason number 6. the expansion of the prison industrial complex. Right? We have the U.S. imprisons a higher percentage of its population than any nation on earth. Approximately 2.3 million people. The prison industry is this nation's fastest growing industry. Right? Between the years 1984 and the years 2000, right, the year 2000, in the state of California, the state of California built over 20 prisons, only one university. Right? And like I said before, when we spoke about the types of crimes that people are going to jail for, people are being fed into the prison system, and surprise, the police and the prosecutors and the judges are invested in the prison industrial complex in this country.
Exactly.
Right? So the first thing any criminal defendant should discover in any case that they're saddled with, the judge and the prosecutor and the police officers should disclose their investments. They should disclose their investments to the accused, and if they are heavily invested or even somewhat invested in the prison industrial complex, they should recuse themselves, and the case should be dismissed due to the conflict of interest of the parties. Which brings us to reason number 7, the state-sponsored hate-mongering and fear-mongering. Now, you just started reading that book by Jerry Spence, who explores this area of the media, the species of media that we're saddled with in this country, and we've spoken about it many times on this show, so I think our regular viewers realize the types of things that we're speaking about, so I won't expound on it any further. And reason number 8, last but not least, is the corruption in the courts, which also we've spoken so much about on this show. There's really no need to further.
Well, I'd like to mention number 9.
Okay.
Children are being stolen from loving parents and placed into the foster no care system. So you're talking about the acceleration of the prison business, but it is also a huge acceleration of the foster care industry. It's a business. They take children. They many times often, they're illegally adopted, and the person who's adopting them is getting paid off. These kids don't even realize they're not even loved. They're just, they're money, they're a pawn. It's so sad.
Well, we're not even going to have time to get to our second question, which was, does the profit motive alone explain the proliferation of antidepressant drugs?
Again, there is a $5,000 reward for the arrest and conviction of Zeynep Shaheen and Ronald Richter. They both are employees for the Administration for Children's Services. They were involved in the kidnapping and abuse of DeAndrea Durrell, who is now smoking on drugs, alcohol, and they're responsible for this. Perjury, also Dr. Richard Oberfield, we want him arrested as well and convicted, and there's a $5,000 reward for him as well.